In the remote reaches of the United States, where craggy mountains met sprawling urban landscapes, the ghost of the past stirred restless memories in the heart of Isla. The early morning light crept over snow-dusted pines, turning each branch into a fragile sculpture of glass. Isla had always been drawn to these high places, a refuge where nature's raw, unyielding beauty mirrored the tumult inside her. The mountains had witnessed her pain, the secrets whispered in the wind of a love once bright, and the betrayal that had altered the course of her life forever. Isla's solitary existence in a rustic cabin near a bustling mountain town was a careful balance between the serenity of nature and the hidden tensions of her past. For years, she had shielded herself behind a veneer of quiet determination and emotional detachment. Yet the scars of that fateful night, the moment when Cade, her former lover and the enigmatic alpha of a legendary werewolf pack, had shattered the bond that once united them, remained as vivid as fresh wounds. As she trudged along a narrow trail flanked by ancient redwoods and whispering elms, Isla's mind was drawn back to the incandescent evenings of laughter and passion that had defined her earlier life. The crisp air carried faint remnants of forgotten promises, mingled with the bittersweet fragrance of pine and earth. She recalled how Cade's deep, commanding voice had once spoken words of love, his eyes alight with a fierce, unyielding resolve that made her heart soar. Yet, in that same gaze, she now saw the reflection of betrayal, an irrevocable fracture that no amount of time could fully heal. The tranquility of nature's embrace was soon shattered by the distant rumble of a pickup truck winding its way up the mountain road. Isla paused, alert and apprehensive. In the distance, a lone figure slowly emerged from the swirling snow. It was Cade. His presence, like an omen, challenged the fragile peace that she had cultivated in her solitude. The years seemed to evaporate in the cold, misty air as the memories of their shared past converged with the present moment. Cade's eyes, dark and tempestuous, met hers with an intensity that belied the time and pain separating them. Overwhelmed by conflicting emotions, Isla's voice trembled as she spoke. "Why now, Cade? After all this time, after you broke everything apart?" Her words, raw and unfiltered, carried the weight of accumulated sorrow and anger. Cade's expression, marked by regret yet tempered by resolute determination, softened ever so slightly. "I have returned, Isla. I come not only to mend what was shattered, but also to unveil truths that even you may not fully comprehend," he replied, his tone both somber and compelling. Their conversation, fragile as spun glass yet charged with undeniable magnetism, revealed that the rupture in their past was intricately tied to a far more sinister force lurking in the shadows. Cade admitted that his betrayal was not born of malice alone, but of a coerced necessity, to protect secrets that belonged to a lineage steeped in ancient conflicts. The revelation that their fractured past was interwoven with the fate of an entire pack and a mysterious, ancestral feud sparked a hesitant glimmer of hope in Isla's heart. The chill in the air seemed to intensify as they moved towards the heart of an abandoned logging town, a ghost of an era when the wilderness and mankind had coexisted with a delicate balance. The town, with its crumbling facades and overgrown streets, exuded an eerie nostalgia. Each rusted sign and shattered window told a story of a time when legends walked among ordinary people. Here, in this uncanny setting that straddled the line between myth and modernity, Isla and Cade began to uncover remnants of old family disputes and secret pacts made in the quiet shadow of the forest. Inside an old, dimly lit inn, their footsteps echoed against the creaking wooden floor as they approached a weathered table in the far corner of the room. Poring over a collection of brittle, handwritten letters and faded photographs, the duo slowly pieced together the story of Isla's lineage, a tale of forbidden love, bitter rivalries, and unyielding loyalty bound by ancient rituals. Her ancestors had long been guardians of hidden lore, protectors of mysteries that could alter the delicate balance between man and beast. Every document they unearthed deepened the enigma, hinting at a prophecy that foretold the convergence of blood, love, and destiny. In a hushed whisper, Cade revealed, "Isla, your bloodline holds the key to an ancient rite, a ritual that could either heal our fractured past or doom us to eternal strife." His words resonated with both hope and warning as he continued to unroll yellowed parchment that spoke of a lineage cursed with the gift of sight, a foresight of tragedies yet to come. Each line painted a picture of a destiny that was as inescapable as the rising sun, yet as mutable as the shifting mountain snow. The dialogue was punctuated by the distant sound of a church bell tolling, an uncanny reminder of the inexorable passage of time. Outside, the wind howled through the alleys of the abandoned town, carrying with it the secrets of forgotten generations. An air of mystery enveloped them, a palpable tension where every shadow held a secret, and every gust of wind whispered the name of long-departed souls. Isla's inner turmoil battled with the allure of redemption. The memories of Cade's tender promises fought against the searing sting of betrayal, leaving her trapped in a liminal space between love and hate. A sudden crash from the inn's creaking door startled them from their introspection. A local, rugged man with worried eyes and a deep accent entered hastily, his presence injecting an unexpected urgency into the scene. "You two must leave at once," he insisted in a low, urgent tone. "There's talk of strangers in the woods, spirits and hunters alike, drawn by the disturbance. The ancient pact has been broken and danger is near." His words, laced with superstition and genuine fear, reverberated through the stillness of the room. Cade exchanged a grave glance with Isla. The revelation that their confrontation with an external, ominous threat was imminent only deepened the layers of peril surrounding them. Instantly, the conversation shifted from revelations of family secrets to the necessity of immediate action. "We cannot ignore this warning," Cade said, his voice steady yet fraught with the weight of the moment. "There is darkness gathering in the woods, an enemy we've long underestimated. Our past, our pain, and our secrets are entwined with this looming menace." As Isla absorbed these new developments, her thoughts turned inward. The internal battle between the desire for vengeance and the faint possibility of forgiveness churned within her, leaving a bitter, unresolved tension. The weight of centuries-old expectations and the present danger merged, creating a cauldron of emotional turmoil that threatened to spill over at any moment. She recalled her mother's final words, a plea for reconciliation and the courage to find strength in unity. "Redemption is not given, it's earned through enduring the storm, Isla," her mother had whispered on her deathbed. Now those words rang with an almost prophetic certainty. The inn's atmosphere, heavy with unsaid words and unhealed wounds, suddenly felt claustrophobic. Isla's gaze shifted to a small ornate mirror hanging on the wall. In its reflection, she saw not only the strained countenance of a woman torn between past and future but also the glint of determination slowly rekindling in her eyes. "I'll follow you, Cade," she declared with resolve, her voice trembling yet resolute. "But know this, I am not the same woman I once was. I have learned to fight for what is right, for the truth buried under layers of deceit." Cade's expression softened as he nodded solemnly, the harsh lines of regret softening into a tentative expression of hope. "Then let us mend what was broken, face the terror that haunts our legacy, and if we dare, reclaim the future that is rightfully ours," he whispered, as if promising a fragile truce between the ghosts of the past and the possibility of redemption. Together, they stepped out into the biting night, the sprawling urban skyline twinkling in the distance serving as a stark contrast to the wild, untamed land they now traversed. The wind carried an eerie melody, as if the very earth mourned the tragedies of bygone eras. Every step forward was laced with the burden of history, and each decision bore the weight of inevitable consequence. As they pushed into the depths of the ancient forest, tendrils of mist enveloped them, obscuring the path ahead and mirroring the ambiguity of their fates. Yet, in that thickening fog of uncertainty and danger, a spark of something unspoken ignited, a precarious hope that perhaps the mistakes of the past could one day be redeemed through courage and sacrifice. The forest, with its twisted branches and hidden crevices, seemed to whisper promises of both peril and salvation in the same breath. Every rustle of leaves and distant howl resonated with the memory of a legacy long shrouded in mystery, a legacy that demanded reckoning and redemption in equal measure. The tension in the air was nearly palpable as Isla and Cade reached a fork in the path. One way led deeper into a part of the forest reputed to house remnants of an ancient sanctum, while the other veered toward a narrow clearing lit by the pallid glow of a full moon. Each route promised its own set of challenges and revelations, and neither could be chosen without sacrificing a part of the uncertain future that lay ahead. Isla's heart pounded in her chest as she regarded the diverging trails, each shrouded in equal measures of danger and possibility. Her mind raced with myriad thoughts, of betrayal, of the love that once was, and of the looming specter of threats that transcended personal grievances. Every step, every whisper of the wind urged her forward, even as the ghosts of her past beckoned her to retreat. In that fleeting moment of decision, as the chill of the night clung to her skin and the spectral light danced over the snow, Isla felt the tides of fate turning once more. The weight of legacy and the promise of an unforeseen redemption wove together into a tapestry of peril and passion that could no longer be ignored. The quiet murmur of distant howls mingled with the steady beat of her pulse, crafting a dissonant symphony, a harbinger of the peril that was fast approaching. With resolute determination, she finally stepped toward the path that promised the least resistance, though every instinct screamed of the dangers concealed in the dark. Her final glance at Cade was filled with both hope and unspoken questions, a silent plea for understanding in a world where trust was as elusive as the morning mist. With one last murmur of anticipation, the duo advanced deeper into the unknown, the forest swallowing their figures as the night pressed in around them. As Isla and Cade pressed deeper into the shrouded forest, the remnants of the abandoned inn and the ghostly town faded into a distant memory. The path ahead, obscured by swirling mists and entangled underbrush, offered only whispers of what lay in wait. Their every step seemed to echo the haunting cadence of history, a lullaby of pain, love, and the promise of betrayal that had once tethered their souls together. The ancient trees towered overhead, their gnarled branches forming a natural cathedral that sheltered secrets older than memory. The journey had taken on an almost surreal quality. With every crunch of fallen leaves beneath their boots and every gust of wind that stirred the dense canopy, Isla could feel the weight of her lineage pressing upon her. The forest was alive with murmurs, snatches of forgotten lore interwoven with the rustle of the wind. Each sound carried a message, a clue to the mystery of her ancestry and the dark prophecy that had been hinted at by the ancient letters in that dilapidated inn. Cade led the way with an intensity that belied the calm facade he tried so hard to maintain. His eyes, constantly darting around like a vigilant guardian, betrayed the inner turmoil of a man burdened by regret and determination. "Isla," he said quietly, his voice a blend of urgency and vulnerability, "we must reach the heart of the forest before twilight. There is a clearing rumored to be the site of an age-old ritual, one that might unlock the mysteries of your family's past." His words were laced with the fervor of someone who had lived under the constant shadow of destiny. The air grew noticeably colder as the duo ascended a steep, narrow trail, the remnants of an ancient stone staircase half consumed by creeping vines and the relentless force of nature. Each step stirred dirt and memories long buried within the soil. As they walked, the forest began to reveal symbols etched into weathered stones, cryptic carvings that hinted at the rituals of a forgotten era. Isla reached out to trace one of these inscriptions, her fingers trembling as they skimmed over the contours of a wolf entwined with a crescent moon. "These sigils, they're part of our history," she murmured, awestruck. "They speak of unity and of sacrifice." Her voice resonated with a mixture of reverence and an emerging resolve to understand the truth behind her bloodline. Cade, standing silently beside her, offered a solemn nod. "Your ancestors guarded these lands not merely as custodians of nature, but as bearers of a sacred duty to balance the realms of man and beast." His tone carried an undercurrent of painful nostalgia, as if every word was a reminder of a lost era, of promises made under starlit skies that had now faded into obscurity. "The ritual we seek is said to be the catalyst for reconciliation between the supernatural and the mortal world. But it comes at a steep price." As the forest thickened around them, the tension between the two shifters grew. The silence was punctuated by Cade's strained breaths and Isla's measured steps. Their previous confrontation in the inn had unearthed painful memories, but it also paved the way for a tentative reconciliation. Yet beneath the burgeoning hope lay an ever-present dread, a fear that even if they unlocked the secrets of her past, the cost might be too high for both of them. A sudden rustling in the underbrush broke their concentration. Both halted, hearts pounding in synchrony, eyes narrowing to catch a glimpse of movement. A slender figure emerged from behind a clump of ferns, a young woman with eyes as sharp as flint and a demeanor that radiated quiet authority. Dressed in practical attire that spoke of both urban pragmatism and a hidden connection to the wilderness, she stepped forward with deliberate grace. "I'm Lila," she introduced herself, her voice steady and clear. "I know these woods better than anyone. I've been watching you since you arrived at the inn. Your journey is interwoven with destinies far beyond what you might imagine." Isla exchanged a wary glance with Cade, uncertain whether to view Lila as an ally or as another potential threat drawn by the same mysterious forces. Yet Lila's eyes, reflecting a sincere empathy and an unyielding determination, eased some of the palpable tension. "I was once part of their circle," Lila continued, her gaze flickering to the ancient carvings in the trees. "My family has a legacy here, and I know the price of the sacrifices demanded by the old ways. I can help you find the clearing and decipher these sigils." Cade, ever protective yet visibly longing for unity in the face of adversaries old and new, nodded slowly. "Your timing is fortuitous, Lila. The pieces of the puzzle have scattered far and wide. Perhaps fate has intertwined our paths once more." With Lila's guidance, the trio navigated through the labyrinthine forest. Along the winding paths, Isla began to unravel memories that had long lain dormant. The scent of wildflowers mingled with the earthy aroma of damp moss, evoking scenes from a childhood spent between the shelter of her grandmother's tales and the rugged legends of local lore. In these quiet moments, Isla felt the stirring of a deep-seated connection, to both her ancestors and the land itself, an acknowledgement that the roots of her lineage were as intertwined with these woods as the branches of the towering pines. During a brief pause by a bubbling brook, Isla and Lila found solace in quiet conversation. My grandmother used to say that every stream carries away the sins of the past, Lila reflected. But it also nurtures new life. Perhaps this is a sign that redemption, as elusive as it may seem, is always within reach, even in the darkest times. Isla's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she listened, her heart softening at the possibility of absolution and renewal. Maybe, she whispered, but how do we trust that redemption isn't just another mirage, a promise that fades when the shadows close in? Lila's response was thoughtful and measured. Trust is earned through pain and resilience, she said, her voice firm. The forest tests us all. But sometimes, by embracing our scars, we unlock the strength to forge a new path. The conversation was interrupted by a sharp, metallic clang that resonated through the trees, a sound reminiscent of an ancient bell being struck. Their eyes widened in unison, and the three exchanged looks filled with both apprehension and the realization that their time was slipping away. In the distance, beyond the reach of the brook's calming babble, a clearing began to emerge, bathed in the soft luminescence of a waning sun. The sight was both breathtaking and foreboding, as the clearing's center was dominated by a colossal stone altar covered in the same cryptic symbols found on the forest's ancient trees. As they approached, the air grew charged with an almost electric fervor. Cade's jaw tightened and his gaze hardened. "This is it," he murmured, a tremor of both hope and uncertainty threading through his voice. "This altar is central to the ritual that will either mend the fracture of our legacy or unleash forces we cannot control." Isla felt her pulse quicken at the gravity of his words. Every instinct urged her to step back, yet the call of the past and the promise of an answer propelled her forward. The clearing was eerily silent, save for the soft hum of nature preparing for dusk. Shadows lengthened across the stone altar, each one dancing as if in anticipation of an impending revelation. Lila took a hesitant step forward, her eyes scanning the inscriptions on the altar's weathered surface. These markings, they speak of a convergence of souls, a moment when the past and present collide, she explained, her tone both reverent and cautionary. But they also warn of a sacrifice, a price that must be paid in blood to restore balance. A heavy silence fell over the group as the implications of Lila's words sank in. Isla's heart pounded as memories of past betrayals and the weight of her family's legacy merged into an overwhelming torrent of emotion. In that moment, her inner strength wavered between the desire for retribution against the wounds of yesteryear and the tentative hope that forgiveness might pave the path to salvation. "What must be done?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper as if fearing that even the winds might betray her hopes. Cade stepped forward, his eyes now reflective of a man who had traversed the depths of his own regrets. "We must recreate the ancient rite," he declared, his tone resolute. "Only by facing the sins of the past head-on can we hope to set our souls free. But it is not a path for the faint of heart. To initiate the ritual, one among us must offer a binding sacrifice, a symbolic act of renunciation that will break the cycle of vengeance and allow for true redemption." His words carried the burden of inevitability, mingled with a desperate plea for absolution. At that moment, as the shadows grew longer and the setting sun cast an amber glow upon the altar, a sudden rustling from the periphery of the clearing shattered the fragile unity. Figures moved stealthily between the trees, a mix of men and women cloaked in the garb of ancient tradition and modern rebellion. Their eyes, sharp with determination and burdened with ancestral duty, revealed their allegiance to an enigmatic faction sworn to preserve the balance between the corporeal and the ethereal. Among them was an imposing figure whose gaze locked with Isla's own. "Your destiny is not solely your own," the figure intoned, a voice resonant with both threat and sorrow. "The balance has been disrupted for far too long, and now the reckoning comes not only from within but from all who have a stake in this eternal conflict." The sudden arrival of these mysterious emissaries sent shockwaves through the clearing. Lila, with a mix of familiarity and apprehension, stepped forward. "They are the sentinels," she explained urgently, her eyes meeting Isla's with a blend of warning and compassion. "Guardians of the old ways, they have long maintained the sanctity of this ritual. If they deem our actions unworthy, the consequences will ripple across both worlds, human and supernatural alike." Her words ignited a spark of fear within Isla, mingling with the ever-present hope that perhaps through this trial, redemption could be achieved. Cade's eyes flickered between Isla and the Sentinel leader, a silent storm of determination and uncertainty warring within him. "We will not falter," he vowed, his voice steady despite the encroaching darkness. "If sacrifice is required, then it shall be made willingly. But know this, the price we pay today may well be the key to our salvation tomorrow." His declaration, though laden with the inevitability of suffering, resonated with a strength that both inspired and unsettled his companions. In that charged atmosphere, as dusk surrendered to the inevitable embrace of night, Isla found herself at the crossroads of destiny. The promise of reparation, the allure of forgiveness, and the haunting specter of sacrifice all converged within her. Her heart hammered in her chest, each beat echoing the ancient call of the forest, a call that demanded she confront not only the legacies of betrayal and regret but the very essence of her soul. "I must decide," she whispered to the encroaching darkness, "whether to cling to the pain of the past or to step into the light of a future forged by redemption." Every fiber of her being trembled with the weight of that decision. With the sentinels closing in and the twilight deepening into a stifling gloom, tension reached a fevered pitch. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath, the rustling leaves pausing in a moment of collective anticipation. As the first star emerged in the darkening sky, Cade knelt before the ancient altar, tracing the familiar yet enigmatic symbols with reverence. "This ritual will bind us to our fate," he intoned, his voice a solemn oath. "It is a covenant between our hearts and the forces that govern the balance of nature." His declaration was met with a chorus of murmurs, a mingling of approval, warning, and an undercurrent of sorrow from those who had long guarded the sanctity of the old ways. As Isla took tentative steps towards the altar, a sudden piercing howl echoed through the treetops, abruptly halting every breath in the clearing. Eyes widened and hearts pounded in unison as the eerie sound signaled the arrival of an unknown force, a force that threatened to shatter the tenuous hope that had blossomed among them. The clearing quivered with uncertainty. Each member of the unlikely alliance felt the weight of destiny converge upon that single, fateful moment. The atmosphere, heavy with both promise and peril, grew colder still. With an unsteady exhale, Isla raised her trembling hand, her eyes filled with a tumult of emotions. In that charged silence, as the forest braced for the unknown and every soul present faced the precipice of destiny, the first step toward an irreversible reckoning was taken. The echoes of the ancient ritual began to stir, intertwining with the howls in the distance and the distant murmur of discontent from the sentinels. In that moment, as the boundaries between past transgressions and future hope blurred into one, the fate of all who stood there teetered on the knife edge of the inevitable sacrifice, a decision that would forever alter the course of their intertwined destinies. The forest seemed to pulse with a restless energy as dusk surrendered to an inky night. In the clearing, now an arena of destiny, the trembling pulse of ancient magic intermingled with the palpable tension among the gathered souls. The sentinels, standing like silent wraiths among the trees, observed with eyes that had witnessed countless cycles of hope and despair. Isla, Cade, and Lila stood at the edge of an imminent precipice, their fates inexorably tied to the secrets of long-forgotten rites. As the wind carried away the final echoes of the ritual's incantation, an almost imperceptible shimmer began to radiate from the stone altar. The symbols carved into its surface, illuminated by the spectral glow, seemed to twist and writhe with an unseen life force. Isla felt as if the very ground beneath her feet was speaking, a rumble of ancient memories and promises waiting to be fulfilled. For a brief moment, time appeared to slow, and the mysteries of her lineage swirled before her eyes like ethereal mists. Cade's voice broke the silence, low and laden with both reverence and anguish. "This altar has seen centuries of anguish and redemption. It has been the witness to our kind's greatest triumphs and worst betrayals. Tonight, it demands something from us, a truth buried deep in the fabric of our souls." His gaze, fixed on the pulsating runes, conveyed a fervent hope that redemption was not merely a myth but a tangible possibility. Yet beneath that hope was the stark realization of the cost such truth would demand. Lila stepped forward, her tone imbued with a quiet conviction. "The rites of old speak of a reckoning, a moment when the blood of the past can cleanse the wounds of the present. But to unlock that cleansing, we must confront the darkest corners of our history." Her fingers traced the air in a delicate gesture, as if summoning the spectral threads of fate. "Every secret our ancestors harbored, every betrayal concealed beneath layers of time, is intertwined with our very existence tonight." As these words hung in the charged air, A sudden rustling emanated from the dense thicket at the back of the clearing. From the shadows emerged a weathered figure, her presence both fragile and undeniably powerful. Clad in tattered robes that bore the insignia of an ancient order, the woman's eyes shone with the wisdom of epics. "I am Mara," she declared, her voice a resonant blend of sorrow and determination. "For generations I have guarded the history of our people, a history of both luminous hope and brutal betrayal. You seek answers in these runes, but know that truth comes with the burden of choice." Isla's heart pounded as she looked upon Mara, her mind reeling from the enormity of what was unfolding. "What do you mean by choice?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and the desperate need for clarity. Mara's eyes swept over the trio, taking in every trace of pain and resolve. "The ritual we are about to perform was not conceived in times of peace. It was born out of a need to mend a fragmented world, a world teetering on the brink of perpetual strife. But mending such fractures demands sacrifice, and a willingness to face the sins of those who came before you." She paused, letting the gravity of her words sink in. "To proceed is to walk the razor's edge between salvation and damnation." The air grew thick with anticipation as the moon climbed higher, casting an otherworldly light upon the clearing. Shadows stretched and merged, forming fleeting shapes that could be misinterpreted as omens. Isla felt the weight of countless generations press upon her, each whisper of the past urging her to embrace both her heritage and the daunting path of redemption that lay before her. Cade, his voice resolute yet carrying a palpable tremor of uncertainty, interjected, "Mara, if we are to face these ancient truths, what must be done? Can the damage of the past truly be healed, or will it forever bind us to a cycle of retribution?" His words resonated with the deep-seated hope of mending wounds that refused to close, and with the fear of repeating history's darkest chapters. Mara's gaze softened for a moment, a hint of empathy glimmering in her eyes before the sternness returned. "History is neither cruel nor kind, it simply is. The ritual will force you to confront the mirror of your soul. To mend the bond and rewrite destiny, one of you must step forward as the bridge between worlds, bearing the symbolic weight of ancestral guilt." Her voice dropped to a near whisper, inviting both dread and anticipation in equal measure. "That sacrifice is not a mere offering of blood or life. It is the relinquishment of the arrogance that blinds you to the truth of your lineage." A heavy silence followed her revelation. Isla's thoughts churned with conflicting emotions, the ache of old wounds, the lure of forgiveness, and the oppressive weight of an inevitable choice. The altar's glow intensified, bathing the assembled figures in a surreal light that seemed to transcend the physical realm. In the interplay of light and shadow, Isla caught a fleeting glimpse of her own reflection in the stone, a visage marked by both sorrow and a nascent fire of defiance. The mirrored image of the woman she had once known clashed with the soul that had endured the hardships of betrayal and loss, forging an identity anchored in resilience. "I have seen these visions," Mara continued, as if reading the tumult in Isla's eyes. "Your mother, your ancestors. Their spirits linger here, wishing for deliverance from their endless penance. They offered this legacy to you not to burden you but to empower you. It is in this crucible of suffering and hope that true transformation is born." The ancient guardian's words wove a tapestry of both hope and melancholy, hinting at redemption that was as elusive as it was transformative. Lila, who had hitherto observed in quiet contemplation, broke into the dialogue with a steely tone. "We know that our past is marred by secrets, secrets that have poisoned relationships, ignited betrayals and sown chaos within our ranks. Yet, if we stand together and confront these ghosts, maybe, just maybe, we can create something new, a future unshackled by the chains of old regrets." Her declaration was not merely an assertion of unity, it was a rallying cry to reclaim the legacy that had been tarnished by generations of sorrow. Amid this swirl of declarations and revelations, a palpable shift began within Isla. Every fiber of her being vibrated with the realization that the time for passive mourning was over. The faces of her ancestors, the echoes of their joys and sorrows, and the weight of the sacrifices they had made coalesced into a singular purpose. She looked to Cade, a man who had once shattered her heart, and now recognized that his presence was an essential part of the collective healing. "I no longer wish to be defined solely by the betrayals of my past," she declared, her voice rising with a resolute clarity. "If our fate is to be rewritten, then let it be through understanding, through facing our demons head-on and daring to believe in the possibility of redemption." Her words, fueled by decades of pent-up emotions, hung in the air like a challenge issued to the ancient forces of nature. The sentinels shifted imperceptibly, their silent approval or disapproval hidden behind inscrutable expressions. Cade's face tightened with emotion as he nodded, the raw sincerity in his eyes mirroring her newfound resolve. "We will face this head-on," he affirmed, his tone a blend of solemnity and hope. "Let our actions tonight stand as a testament that even those who have erred might find the strength to atone and mend the bond once thought irreparably broken." As the trio prepared for the impending ritual, the atmosphere became almost otherworldly. The boundaries between reality and the ancient, mystical plane began to blur. Mara moved gracefully toward the altar, her fingers brushing lightly over the carvings as if drawing power from their depths. "To begin," she intoned, "you must each offer a piece of your truth. Speak the name of your deepest regret and the longing that has defined your soul. Let the altar consume your bitterness and in its stead, offer you clarity." Isla's breath hitched as she stepped forward, her heart pounding in tandem with the drumbeat of fate. For a moment she hesitated, the enormity of the task dawning on her. Then, with the unwavering certainty of someone who has traversed the darkest corridors of her own mind, she spoke. "My regret is that I allowed betrayal to shatter the trust between what I thought was destiny and what I believed we shared," she confessed, her voice a blend of sorrow and defiance. "I long for a future where I can finally rise above the echoes of pain, to be free of the chains that bind me to a history of suffering." Her words, laden with personal anguish and the fervor of a soul determined to heal, resonated deeply with the ancient energies encapsulated within the altar. The stone pulsed in response, its luminescence intensifying as if acknowledging her truth. As if on cue, the ground beneath them trembled, and the previously inscrutable symbols began to rearrange themselves, revealing hidden inscriptions that glowed with an inner fire. Cade approached, his own confession ready to break the barrier of silence that had long encased his heart. His voice, steady yet brimming with an old, well-guarded vulnerability, pierced the ambient hum. "I confess that I betrayed not only the sanctity of our bond but also the legacy entrusted to me by our ancestors," he declared. "My longing, contrary to every promise I once made, was to protect you, even if it meant sacrificing our unity in a misguided attempt to shield you from a danger too great to comprehend." His admission, raw and unvarnished, sank deep into the ether, the altar reverberating with the weight of his transgression and the hope of forgiveness. Lila's turn came next, and although her external composure remained, the truth in her eyes betrayed the tumult of her own heart. "I too must atone," she murmured, her voice soft yet determined. "I have carried a secret that has fractured loyalties and sowed discord among those I hold dear. I fear that in my silence, I became complicit in the betrayal of trust. A trust that, if mended, could someday usher in a new era of unity and hope." Her confession rippled through the clearing like a solemn vow, binding her fate with that of Isla and Cade. At Mara's silent nod of approval, the trio placed their hands upon the cool, weathered surface of the altar. The energy that surged forth was almost overwhelming, a tidal wave of ancient magic interwoven with the raw human emotions of regret, longing, and hope. The spectral light gathered into a single point above the altar, forming a luminous orb that danced in tandem with the whispered memories of their ancestors. Every heartbeat seemed synchronized with the pulsing glow, and for an instant, the trio felt an ineffable connection, a bridge between mortal frailties and something immeasurably larger than themselves. It was then that the ground erupted with a flurry of spectral images, a montage of voices from the past, faces blurred by time yet etched with timeless sorrow and joy. Isla caught fleeting glimpses of her grandmother's gentle smile, of her mother's fierce determination, and of distant relatives whose lives had been intertwined with triumphs and tragedies. The overwhelming cascade of images brought forth a cathartic release, a merging of the pain that had once haunted her with a newfound strength that surged from deep within her core. In that moment of spiritual clarity, the ancient magic seemed to whisper of absolution, a promise that the sacrifice of old burdens could indeed sow the seeds of renewal. The luminous orb burst into a cascade of shimmering lights that enveloped the clearing, and for several heartbeats, the boundary between the physical and the ethereal dissolved into a vortex of pure, transformative energy. Isla felt herself lifted, both physically and spiritually, as if the unseen forces were liberating her from the shackles of old wounds. At the climax of the ritual, as the energies reached their zenith, Mara's voice resonated one final time, a benediction, a farewell, and a call to the future. "Let this act be the dawn of your emancipation," she intoned, her voice echoing as though from the caverns of time. "In embracing your past, you do not condemn it, but transform it into the very foundation of a new destiny." With those final words, the energies coalesced into a silent vow, the clearing now a sanctum of hope woven from the remnants of betrayal and the promise of redemption. the assembled group slowly withdrew their hands from the altar. In the ensuing silence, each individual, Isla, Cade, and Lila, felt an unspoken shift within their beings. There was no grand proclamation, no immediate revelation of cosmic forces aligning. There was simply the undeniable sense that the legacy of their blood and sacrifice had been acknowledged, honored, and if only for a fleeting moment, transcended. As the glow from the altar diminished into a gentle warmth that suffused the clearing, each soul present knew that their journey had irrevocably changed course. Isla's eyes met Cade's, and in that shared look lay a profound understanding, a silent promise to rebuild what had once been broken. Lila offered a tentative smile, one that spoke of healing and the courage to face what the future might hold. Together, they stood at the threshold of a new beginning, each step forward infused with the promise of overcoming the burdens of the past. The ancient legacy that had once loomed as an inescapable chain now shimmered as a guide, a roadmap etched in the language of sacrifice, redemption, and ultimately hope. In the quiet after the storm of revelations, the forest resumed its natural cadence. The night no longer carried the oppressive weight of old grudges but was instead imbued with a sense of possibility, a gentle reminder that every ending is but a precursor to transformation. Their eyes, once filled with sorrow and regret, now harbored a quiet determination as they turned their gaze toward the unknown, ready to embrace whatever challenges would come with the dawn. Every step they took was measured, every breath a reaffirmation of their resolve. As they slowly left the clearing, their silhouettes merged with the wild terrain, and in that convergence of nature and spirit, the legacy of ancient sorrow was met with the promise of future transcendence. The first hints of dawn began to creep through the dense canopy, casting long, trembling shadows on a path that none of them had ever traveled before. Isla, Cade, and Lila emerged from the spectral glow of the ritual's aftermath with a new burden of secrets and revelations weighing upon their hearts. Though the energy of ancient magic had waned, its residue clung to them like a silken shroud, whispering of future battles yet to be fought. The forest, now bathed in the gentle luminosity of early morning, seemed to exhale as if relieved by their passage through the night's turbulent rites, but also as if conspiring to hide further enigmas beneath its tangled undergrowth. As they made their way along a narrow, winding trail carved by centuries of natural history, each step reverberated with the legacy of those who had come before. Isla's thoughts swirled in a tempest of newfound hope and lingering sorrow. The ritual had stripped bare the ancient wounds of her family, yet it had also unearthed truths that would forever alter her perception of loyalty and sacrifice. Her footsteps were measured and deliberate as she recalled Mara's haunting admonition. The past was not something to be erased but confronted head-on in order to forge a future unburdened by historical guilt. Cade walked beside her, his expression a blend of determination and regret. The ritual had exposed more than just the accumulated sins of generations. It had revealed an undercurrent of treachery hidden within the ranks of his own kind. His eyes, reflecting a kind of weary introspection, were fixed on the road ahead even as his mind replayed the confessions made at the altar. Each stride was a silent promise to himself that this second chance would not be squandered, that he would face the demons of both his present and past with an unwavering resolve. Lila, the enigmatic guide whose origins were now more layered than ever, remained perceptive and vigilant. Her role as a mediator between the ancient and the modern was fraught with its own perils, and every whispered secret from the woods deepened her internal conflict. In the silence of the morning, she struggled with the weight of a secret that she had long guarded, one that might ultimately shatter the fragile unity they had begun to rebuild. As the trio advanced deeper into the wild, Lila's furrowed brow betrayed a mind racing with plans and contingencies. Was there a way to protect not only themselves but also the legacy that spanned both worlds, without succumbing to the sins of old? Their journey led them to a clearing bordered by towering oaks and the vibrant hues of wild azaleas, a natural amphitheater that offered a brief respite from the oppressive intensity of the forest. Here, the ground was carpeted with dew-laden ferns, and a gentle stream murmured secrets of its own as it wove through the terrain. They paused to replenish their water and gather their thoughts. The silence was fractured only by the soft chirping of morning birds and the distant murmur of urban life beyond the wilderness, a reminder of the modern world that loomed just outside the ancient woods. It was in this ephemeral moment of calm that Isla's reflective gaze fell upon an intricately carved totem lodged halfway between two massive boulders. The figure, a stylized wolf intertwined with human features, evoked a visceral reaction in her. The totem, weathered by time and etched with symbols she had seen in the ruined letters at the inn, stood as a silent testimony to the legacy of her bloodline. With trembling fingers, she brushed away the layers of moss, revealing faded inscriptions that hinted at a prophecy yet unfulfilled. "There's more to our past than we ever imagined," she murmured, her voice barely audible against the rustle of leaves. Cade joined her, carefully examining the engravings as his eyes lit with both curiosity and sorrow. Together they recognized that the totem was a relic that could offer clues to the next step of their arduous quest for redemption. As they deciphered the cryptic markings, a sudden rustling in the underbrush alerted them to an unexpected presence. Shadows danced at the periphery of their vision, and a group of figures emerged with a cautious deliberation. These were not ordinary travelers, but rather emissaries from a splinter faction within the supernatural community, dissidents who had long rejected the strict codes of their kin in favor of forging their own destiny. Their leader, a solemn woman with eyes as piercing as icicles and a bearing that commanded both respect and trepidation, stepped forward. "I am Ravenna," she declared, her tone carrying neither accusation nor allyship, but an air of enigmatic neutrality. "Your ritual has awakened forces that we have long watched in silence, and now you stand at the crossroads of fate. Will you allow your past to dictate your future, or will you defy the legacy that binds you?" Her question hung in the air, laden with the weight of centuries of unspoken conflict. Isla's heart pounded as the implications of Ravenna's words resonated within her. Had they really ignited a chain of events that could disrupt not just personal destinies, but the intricate balance between ancient orders and modern existence? Cade exchanged a cautious glance with Isla, both of them aware that Ravenna's arrival heralded either an alliance or a confrontation that could unravel the tenuous thread of hope they had so painstakingly woven. Ravenna surveyed the trio with a mixture of skepticism and cautious empathy. "Our factions have been splintered by old wounds and fresh betrayals," she continued, her gaze shifting imperceptibly to Lila. "Some of us choose to guard these secrets in hopes of preserving a legacy, while others are determined to rewrite the narrative with fresh ink. The choice, as always, lies in the actions of those brave enough to face the aftermath." Her tone was neither condemnatory nor conciliatory, it simply carried the inevitability of fate marching on regardless of personal resolve. Lila, whose secret had been her anchor and her curse, hesitated before speaking. "Ravenna, we are not seeking to reignite old conflicts," she replied, her voice measured yet tinged with urgency. "Our goal is to heal what has been fractured for far too long, to offer a chance at redemption not just to our families, but to all those ensnared in this legacy of despair. But we must first confront the hidden betrayals that have haunted us, and that means accepting truths that are painful, even if they lead to new beginnings." As the dialogue deepened, Ravenna's hardened expression softened, as if lulled by the sincerity of their convictions. "Then come with me," she said after a long silence, "to the ruins of Eldoria, a forgotten citadel where, legend has it, the core of our ancient pact is preserved. There, amid the decaying stones and overgrown courtyards, you might find the answers to the questions that have plagued your families for generations." Her invitation was extended with a cautious optimism, one that promised both peril and potential salvation. Despite the overwhelming risks, the prospect of uncovering the lost truths of their heritage was a beacon too powerful to ignore. The journey to Eldoria, as Ravenna explained, would not be simple. The ruins lay deep in a region where the supernatural and the modern world clashed, a place shunned by both, yet teeming with the remnants of an era when the world was governed by unyielding rites and honor-bound pacts. For Isla, every fiber of her being responded to this call. The old scars of betrayal began to morph into a driving purpose: to reclaim her identity, free herself from the chains of rancor, and grasp the elusive promise of redemption. The path to Eldoria led them along crumbling highways overtaken by nature, past remnants of industrial ambition now reclaimed by wild ivy and silent echoes. As the group traversed through abandoned settlements and scenic yet desolate landscapes, the natural beauty of the region contrasted sharply with the decay wrought by time. The beauty was a poignant reminder that even amidst ruin, life, undaunted and persistent, found a way to bloom. Each scene was a quiet testament to the truth that endings could indeed be the seeds of new beginnings. Along the route, conversations unfolded that laid bare their innermost fears and hopes. In moments of shared vulnerability around flickering campfires, Isla recounted fragments of her childhood, the dreams that were shattered and the love that was lost. Cade, his words raw and unguarded in the intimacy of the night, spoke of his missteps and the heavy cost of misguided loyalty. Lila, the confidant and reluctant bearer of long-hidden secrets, revealed how the weight of her heritage had driven her to seek answers in both the modern and the mystical. Their confessions, woven together in a tapestry of shared pain and tentative hope, slowly forged an alliance that ran deeper than blood, a union of souls determined to rise above the legacies that threatened to imprison them. However, the journey was not without its internal storms. Deep within the heart of their makeshift caravan, tensions simmered as past resentments and uncertain futures collided. One evening, under a sky alight with stars and the distant glow of an approaching storm, a fierce debate erupted. Cade's voice, usually so measured, wavered with a mix of anger and pleading sorrow as he questioned the wisdom of trusting Ravenna's dubious intentions. "How can we be sure that your path does not lead us into the very abyss we seek to escape?" he demanded, his eyes reflecting the turbulent interplay of guilt and hope. "Every step we have taken has been fraught with peril. What makes you different?" Ravenna met his gaze with an unwavering steadiness that belied the intensity of the challenge. "I have seen the culmination of our downfall, as well as the spark of what might yet be," she replied. "My own journey has been marred by the blinding certainty of old dogmas and a refusal to look beyond them. The path I offer is one of reckoning, a final confrontation with the ghosts that have haunted our lineage. It is not without risk, but it is the only way to break free from the cycle of betrayal and despair." The words hung in the charged air as the storm overhead gathered momentum, each flash of lightning illuminating the faces of those determined to reshape their destiny. As the weather turned with the insistence of ancient forces, the group found shelter in a crumbling stone structure that seemed to have once been a place of both worship and wary coexistence. Inside the dim corridors and shadowed halls, echoes of long-forgotten ceremonies resonated, a reminder that time, though relentless, never truly erased the past. Here, in the quiet between thunderclaps, Isla felt the stirring of something deeper within her, a call to accept not only the pain of bygone eras but also the possibility of forging a future unburdened by historical sins. It was in one such silent moment that the most staggering revelation came crashing down upon them. Hidden within a secret compartment behind a decaying tapestry, Isla discovered a collection of meticulously preserved letters and documents, a veritable chronicle of betrayals, alliances, and sacrifices spanning generations. The contents were astonishing in both their detail and their implications. Among the brittle pages was a confession penned in a delicate, archaic hand, admitting that an act of betrayal had been orchestrated not by malice, but by a desperate bid to protect a forbidden love. The revelation upended everything Isla thought she knew about her family's fractured past. In that moment, a complex mosaic of truth, pain, and quiet heroism unfolded before her eyes. The letter hinted at a clandestine romance between two figures from rival factions, an unyielding love that had been torn asunder by the relentless machinations of power. The betrayal that had long been the source of Isla's anguish now took on a new hue, suggesting that even within treachery there could be seeds of redemption and hope. Struck by the profundity of this discovery, Isla's entire demeanor shifted. The weight of her inherited grief began to lift, replaced instead by a glimmer of determination fueled by the recognition that each betrayal, each misstep, carried within it the potential for healing, a chance to rewrite history rather than remain a prisoner of it. "We have been given this hidden truth for a reason," she whispered, her voice trembling with both wonder and resolve. "Our past is not entirely written in sorrow. There is redemption even in the darkest of acts, if we dare to see it." Cade listened in rapt silence, his eyes reflecting not only the flicker of the nearby fire but also a rekindled hope that perhaps his own mistakes could one day be forgiven. Lila, too, seemed to find solace in Isla's words, her guarded expression softening as if the letter had illuminated a long-concealed corner of her own heart. The storm outside raged on as if to underscore the magnitude of the revelations unfolding within those ancient walls. In that dilapidated sanctuary, the trio made a pact, not only to traverse the treacherous road to Eldoria but to confront the full spectrum of their own truths, however painful or redemptive they might prove to be. They knew that the journey ahead would demand sacrifices they might not yet fully comprehend and that the path to healing was often strewn with obstacles both seen and unseen. Yet there, under the relentless drumming of rain on forgotten stone, they embraced the promise of a future where betrayal could be transmuted into strength and where the legacy of ancient sins might finally give way to a triumphant narrative of forgiveness and rebirth. As the night gave way to the tentative light of dawn, the battered yet resolute band emerged from the shelter with a shared vision, a determination to reach the ruins of Eldoria, to unlock the final mysteries of their lineage, and to confront the specters of betrayal head-on. The road ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but every step was now imbued with a purpose that transcended individual pain, uniting them in the common pursuit of redemption. With the ancient documents safely in Isla's grasp, the group set forth once more, each heartbeat carrying the promise of a new chapter, a chapter where even the deepest scars might someday be repainted with the hues of hope and renewal. Every rustle of leaves, every distant call of a hawk, spoke to them of a destiny that was both predetermined and yet open to revision, as if the past and future were locked in a delicate dance. Their journey had become a battle against fate itself, a fight to reclaim what had been lost to the ravages of time and betrayal. And as they advanced along the dusty road, with the ruins of a once great legacy beckoning in the horizon, the realization dawned upon them that their true enemy lay not just in external forces but within the confines of their own hearts. In the soft glow of a rising sun, Isla cast one final look back toward the place where secrets had been unearthed and ancient betrayals confronted. A mixture of pain and quiet satisfaction shimmered in her eyes, a resolve to transform each burden into a stepping stone toward liberation. With hearts aligned and destinies intertwined, they embarked on the final leg of their passage to Eldoria, a passage that promised both deliverance and the risk of new heartbreak, a passage that would ultimately reveal whether the legacy of betrayal could indeed be transmuted into a future of redemption. And so, as they moved forward into the uncertain light of this new day, every step, every shared silence, and every whispered hope coalesced into a powerful testament to the enduring strength of the human and inhuman spirit. A testament that whispered of a destiny not yet fulfilled, a tale not yet complete, and the irrevocable truth that sometimes, the most transformative journeys begin not with certainty, but with a leap of faith into the unknown. The journey to Eldoria had stretched the limits of their endurance and the boundaries of their resolve. As dawn unfolded into a clear, frost-kissed morning, the ancient citadel loomed before them, a labyrinth of crumbling walls, towering arches, and moss-draped pillars that testified to a once glorious heritage now swallowed by time. The caravan, led by Ravenna, crept cautiously through an overgrown gate, and beyond it lay a courtyard choked with ivy and littered with relics of an era when honor and magic were one. Every stone whispered secrets, and every shadow seemed to hold a fragment of a forgotten prophecy. In that eerie silence, Isla's heart pounded with trepidation and anticipation. The revelations unearthed during their previous trials, the confessions at the altar, the rediscovered letters, and the murmured promises of redemption, had prepared her for this moment. Yet nothing in her past could truly capture the magnitude of what Eldoria embodied. For here, in the ruins of bygone splendor, the tangled threads of her family's legacy, the betrayal and the hope, were destined to converge in one final reckoning. The group assembled in the central atrium of the citadel, a vaulted chamber where natural light filtered in through fractured stained glass, casting fragmented rainbows over time-worn stone floors. Ravenna's measured steps echoed as she led them to the heart of the ruins. A vast, circular chamber surrounded by crumbling columns engraved with symbols that resonated with the same mystic language Isla had seen in her family documents. At the very center of the chamber lay a monolithic pedestal, upon which rested an ancient tome bound in worn leather and inscribed with cryptic runes that pulsed faintly with an ethereal glow. A hush fell over the assembly as Ravenna cleared her throat. "Within these walls," she began, her voice resonant with both authority and sorrow, "lies the chronicle of our kind, a record of alliances, betrayals, and sacrifices. It is said that the pages of this tome hold not only the history of our people but the key to breaking the cycles that have tormented us for centuries." Her eyes swept the room, lingering on Isla as if silently urging her to step forward. "Tonight each of you will face your own truth in the light of this legacy, and together, you will decide the fate of our intertwined destinies." Isla's gaze fell upon the ancient tome, and a shiver coursed through her. With a deep, steadying breath, she reached for the book and in that instant, an unexpected force surged through the chamber. The runes on the tome flared to life, their glow intensifying until the entire room bathed in a spectral light. It was as if the very fabric of time and memory had been woven into the pages, ready to reveal what had long been hidden. A disembodied voice, neither male nor female but resonant with a depth beyond mortal comprehension, emanated from the tome. "The truth you seek lies not solely in the sins of the past, but in the potential for rebirth. Within your blood runs the promise of a future unbound by old grudges, yet shadowed by an unforeseen treachery." The voice paused, its cadence echoing against the ancient stones. "To break the curse, one must confront the mirror of fate. But know this, what you find in that reflection may shatter everything you believe to be certain." At that moment, a low rumble reverberated through the citadel as if the edifice itself were awakening from a long slumber. From behind a collapsed archway emerged a figure clad in dark, flowing garments, an individual whose presence exuded both menace and magnetism. It was Mara. But as she stepped into the light, Her expression was not one of the weary guardian Isla had known. It was one of fierce determination and a hint of sorrowful regret. Isla's breath caught in her throat. "Mara?" she murmured, unable to reconcile the figure before her with the quiet mentor from the night of the ritual. Mara's eyes, glistening with a secret burden, met Isla's directly. "I have returned not only as your guide but as the keeper of a revelation that will test every fiber of your belief," she said gravely. "For too long, you have carried the weight of betrayal, attributing it solely to the flawed choices of those close to you. But there exists a hidden hand, an element within our lineage that has orchestrated much of the discord, a twist in our fate that you must now confront." A palpable tension seized the chamber as Mara's words rippled through the assembled souls. Cade, standing beside Isla, stiffened with guarded expectation while Lila exchanged a look with Ravenna, a silent acknowledgement that the revelations were about to upend all they thought they knew. Mara advanced toward the pedestal, her gaze fixed on the ancient tome, before turning sharply back toward the group. "Within these pages, you will find the truth of your heritage," she declared. "And more importantly, you will learn that the betrayal, the sacrifices, and the hidden agony are intertwined not with a singular act, but with a clandestine design, one that has pitted kin against kin in a relentless struggle for power." The tome's pages fluttered open as if stirred by an unseen wind, revealing a series of vivid illustrations and meticulously scribed accounts. As Isla's eyes scanned the pages, her world tilted. There, inscribed in delicate, archaic script, was the account of a secret union, one that had occurred long before the generations of enmity. It spoke of a woman, hidden away and written out of the official lineage, whose forbidden love had birthed a legacy of duality. In that moment, the truth seared into Isla's consciousness. The betrayal that had torn her family apart was not the sole consequence of personal failings or misguided loyalty. It was the calculated result of a deliberate manipulation designed to control the power of the supernatural. Her voice trembled as she spoke. This suggests that the true antagonist is not simply the betrayal I felt from those I loved, but an unseen force that has engineered this feud for its own ends." The gravity of her realization cast a long shadow over the chamber. Cade's face paled as fragments of his own memories began to resurface. The subtle hints of manipulation, the inexplicable decisions, the concealed truths behind his desperate attempts at redemption. "I always felt there was something more behind my actions," he confessed, his voice thick with regret and a dawning clarity. "I believed the choice was mine alone, but perhaps I was merely a pawn in a larger game." Lila, her eyes wide with a mix of awe and apprehension, added, "We must reassess everything we've endured. Every act of sacrifice, every moment of betrayal, it all aligns with a carefully orchestrated plan designed to harness our power and keep us divided." Ravenna nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on the ancient inscriptions. "The cycle of violence and retribution has long been fed by the manipulation of a shadow power, a force that thrives on conflict and division. But in your unity, there lies a chance to break free from that cycle once and for all." Mara's tone softened as she continued, "To shatter the chains that have bound you, the ritual must now transform. It is no longer enough to merely atone for past sins. You must forge a new legacy. One where the power of forgiveness and the strength of unity dispel the darkness of concealed betrayals. The secret that has haunted you, the clandestine love, the hidden progeny, must be embraced as the very catalyst for your liberation." In that pivotal moment, the spectral glow of the tome intensified, enveloping everyone in its transformative light. The images within the pages rearranged themselves into a final, breathtaking tableau. A vision of a future where the fractured family line converged into a single radiant force. The illustration depicted a pair of intertwining wolves, their forms melding into one, a symbol of reconciliation and the merging of disparate souls into a harmonious whole. Isla's heart surged with a fierce, unyielding hope. The betrayal she had borne for so long was not an endless curse but an invitation to rewrite destiny. Determination flared in her eyes as she turned to Cade. "We have been manipulated, controlled by forces that thrived on our pain," she declared, her voice clear and resolute. "But together, by embracing every part of our history, even the secret, forbidden chapters, we can reclaim our power and redefine our future." Cade's features, etched with the lines of remorse and hard-earned wisdom, softened as he nodded in agreement. "I now understand that redemption requires not only forgiveness but an unyielding commitment to unity. We must embrace our past in its entirety if we are to dismantle the chains of division." Ravenna stepped forward, her presence imbued with renewed purpose. The ancient prophecy predicted this moment of convergence. a time when the legacy of betrayal would be transformed by a surge of collective will. Your journey here has not been in vain. In uniting your truths, you will catalyze a resurgence that overcomes the shadow power, dissolving its influence forever. Her words, delivered with an unwavering conviction, resonated like a clarion call throughout the hallowed hall. As the group gathered in a tight circle around the pedestal, Mara and Ravenna guided them through the final transformation of the ritual. One by one, Isla, Cade, and Lila placed their hands upon the tome, their combined touch igniting a pulse of power that rippled outward, shaking the very foundations of Eldoria. The ancient runes blazed with a brilliant light, and the spectral energy coalesced into a vortex of luminescent fragments that swirled around them like a celestial storm. In that charged atmosphere, the remnants of betrayal, hidden secrets, and suppressed pain were transmuted into a radiant promise of renewal. Then, as if the universe itself exhaled a long-held breath, the vortex burst in a dazzling cascade of light, scattering across the chamber and infusing every stone, every relic with a sense of profound liberation. The oppressive weight of past manipulation lifted, replaced by a warmth that spoke of healing and a future unburdened by orchestrated despair. In that transformative moment, every conflict and every sorrow seemed to dissolve into the ether, leaving behind the raw, elemental power of forgiveness and unity. A hush fell over the chamber as the light slowly ebbed, revealing a changed landscape. The ancient tome lay open upon the pedestal, its once cryptic runes now reformed into a clear, radiant script that chronicled not only the history of their people but an entirely new destiny, a destiny founded upon the principles of acceptance and the promise of a harmonious future. Isla approached the pedestal, her eyes shimmering with tears of both relief and elation. "We have the power to break free," she whispered, her words echoing in the silent sanctum. "Our past will no longer be our prison. It will be the cornerstone upon which we rebuild everything that was lost." Cade stepped forward, his voice carrying a firm resolve. "Let this be the day when we reclaim not just our legacy, but the very essence of who we are. Together, we have unlocked a strength that can shatter the divisions of our past and pave the way for a new era of hope." Lila, her secret and burden now transformed into a beacon of unity, smiled softly. "This is our rebirth, a chance to shape a future free of the old manipulations and full of genuine, unbridled promise." As the first light of a new day streamed through the fractured windows of the citadel, a serene calm settled over the reunited souls. The illusion of betrayal had finally been dispelled by the truth they had discovered together. In that final, transformative act, the hidden force that had once thrived on their division was rendered powerless, absorbed into the very fabric of their redemption. For the first time as they stepped out from the ancient ruins of Eldoria, Isla, Cade, Lila, and their newfound allies carried within them a radiant conviction that the scars of the past, though indelible, could blossom into the seeds of a future renewed by truth, forgiveness, and unshakable unity. The unresolved tensions had been transformed into a powerful collective strength, dissolving once and for all the shadows of manipulation and long-forgotten betrayals. In that final, triumphant moment, with the sun cresting the horizon and painting the sky in hues of amber and gold, the group embraced their new destiny. Their bonds, once fragile and marred by treachery, had been reforged in the crucible of shared pain and collective redemption. The legacy of bitterness was now a distant memory, replaced by an enduring spirit of reconciliation and forward-looking hope. United by the revelations of the past and empowered by the promise of an uncharted future, they strode confidently away from the ruins, each step echoing the profound transformation of a legacy reborn. Their journey had reached its zenith in the unyielding power of forgiveness, and in that radiant convergence of truth and hope, they found not only salvation but a destiny that shone like the dawn over a bright, unburdened horizon.